All right. Welcome, everybody. Episode 6 of the Weekly Whistle. I'm here with my partner, co-host, co-star, and best friend, Lisa.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How you doing? We're switching this up a little bit here, kind of looking face to face, a little bit of an angle. I hope you guys kind of like it.
Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about today, but before that, both me and Lisa had a great weekend. Yeah. You first, tell me what took place.
Okay. So my daughter and her awesome boyfriend, they were engaged. So fiancés, and they had a beautiful engagement party. I'm surrounded by friends and family and lots of love, and everything went off without a hitch. So I just want to say praise God for that one, because it really worked out well. So.
Right. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
I know.
Very, very excited.
Talk to me about your girl. What's going on?
So my daughter's going to the NCAA lacrosse tournament, Division II. Very exciting. She got Defender of the Year. She got first team all conference, 100 ground balls. Everything worked out for her. She's a senior. You know what? If she goes one round or 3 rounds or whatever, I don't care. This was such a great year for her. We had a great time. The parents, the coaches, everything was awesome. I spent so much time with all these parents, on the East Coast and Rochester and DC and, Boston, all this stuff. It was so much fun. And it's just a pleasure to have a child who plays at the collegiate level.
Wow,
it's
amazing.
So awesome.
Amazing.
So,
and I got to see a little clip of her performing, and she really is a beast. So
a lot of fun.
This is going to be good in the last few rounds.
Yeah. All right. I guess you're going to start this one off to ask me these questions. I guess we'll start with that.
All right. So basically, we know about the White House Correspondents Dinner assassination attempt, and Cole Allen. Thankfully, his siblings came through in giving some report about his manifesto. Initially, unfortunately, the timing was still a little bit off, and we had one of the law enforcement people at the event, Secret Service, was shot. However, his main, and that person is going to be okay. His main goal of assassinating Trump's main team did not come to fruition, or Trump himself, and he's going to be brought up on charges. But Vinny, there was some video with it. Was there more detailed video? And what happened here? Vinny's our law enforcement man, Homeland Security. We're talking over 20 years of experience. So our viewers can trust what he has to say.
So Amanda, if you can just put that video on, that first video, we can watch it. This is like a higher def kind of version of what took place. All right. Now, if you look in that back, you're going to see those doors open up. But prior to that, you're going to see a canine and his handler right there. That's a double door. These guys are actually breaking down the set. So what happens is, after the event is going, they break it down and they just fall back to the entrances and exits of the event, which the media doesn't tell you. Oh, here he comes. Bang, bang, bang.
Wow.
Right? So, Amanda, before you put the next one on, I just want to finish that statement. The media doesn't tell you that this event was not even on the same floor. So what they're making it sound like, or they're making it look like, he just ran right up and he got right there. He still had a ton of people to get through in a different floor. Okay, so let's watch that one more time. We'll try and dissect it a little bit better. So they're breaking down. Tensions are a little low right now because they're breaking down. They did their job, or so they thought. They didn't think, I'm sure these lines were just scattered throughout. So they had a stressful day. They're breaking it down. And here he comes. Now, that Secret Service that says police, that's a Secret Service uniform division officer right there. He has a direct line of sight of what's going on. So he's going to start drawing right off the bat. That all took less than 4 seconds. You see a couple of different people in the back. It looked like they were TSA. They kind of got startled. They're not gun carriers. They took off. A very stressful situation in a few seconds. But we do have a couple of photos so we can kind of break it down. So Amanda, show us that first photo. Okay, there he comes. You could see him coming. That agent, the guy in the suit, that's a special agent from the Secret Service. He kind of he's not in charge, but he's kind of watching what takes place. He's on a channel with the command post advising them what to go on. So if the uniform division is dealing with something, he advises the command post to say, hey, listen, this is what's going on right here. And, they will direct the appropriate actions. Okay. So there you go. He's running. That uniformed division officer in your bottom left is looking right at him. He's the only one who's looking at him right now because this is happening so fast. It just happens to be looking straight ahead. That canine officer had already turned around. He's starting to look back and go, hey, what's going on here? The problem is, and I've seen a lot of posts online, they say, well, why didn't he let the dog loose? He could have got him. And what happens with that is that's most likely an explosives dog trained for explosives, not trained to, grab somebody and subdue them. The problem with, and this comes from being a cop, if you have a dog that's tracking that, when you see on TV, when they have the dogs that they let them loose and they bite the dog, or they bite the person, they bring them down. That dog is so focused on that perp, if you will, that person, is that if someone crosses his line, he's going to direct his attention towards that person. Mm-hmm. So when they train you to work with the canine handlers, you can't cut in front. And I remember one of my first, tracks with the canine, we were tracking a guy and he was in the corner. He wasn't giving up. And my first thought was, let me go run. And I started running towards him, and the canine handler grabbed me by my belt, my friend Carl, and he was like, hold on. Then he let him go. If I would have went 5 feet, that dog would have just latched right onto me. So it's a very stressful situation with that. But that was most likely a dog that was trained for explosives. Mm-hmm. Amanda, show that next photo. Now he is right there. Okay. And that's why, a lot of times, this is when I believe the individual takes a shot at the officer. It's either this one or the next one, which is within the next, millisecond. He was hit with a buckshot. There you go. He was hit with a buckshot. Let me explain what a buckshot is. That's a bunch of little pellets in the round. They could be the size, they could be 8 or 9 in there. They could be 20, 25 in there. Mm-hmm. They're very, very small. They're a little bit larger. This is happening right here. And again, this is like within 3 seconds. So look at this officer, what he has to deal with. He's got somebody a couple feet to the right. He's got people right behind him. This is an extremely stressful situation. And, kudos to that officer for, number one, realizing what was taking place. And I said this last week, this is coming, somebody doing this is not, hey, what should we do? This is eliminate the threat as fast as you can. He probably saw him running. He probably caught the shotgun or a weapon in his hand. He said, this has got to happen. And then finally show that last picture. Okay. So that officer, that agent in the suit is a very, very lucky guy because there's no crossfire there. Okay. He didn't get hit. Nobody else got hit. And this guy was subdued a few seconds after that. This happened to be a very good day. This was, this worked out for the Secret Service. Everybody talks about what they could do better. Listen, if you get a 98 on a test, people go, why didn't you get 100? Right. I know we're dealing with people's lives. There was so many more assets that this person had to get through. And that was really the initial part. So, to say that, they had hours of people coming in with lines and checking bags, and that's when everybody was, tense. When you're kind of breaking down, you're like, oh, this is a long day. Not to say you can't stay, vigilant, right. But you know what? That guy did his homework to say, hey, this is the time to go when people's attention span is maybe, not so high strung.
The officers appear to be quick acting as well. Yeah. Now that you can see it like segment by segment, the way that officer that was facing his direction
was perfect.
Right out, with the weapon and ready to, apprehend or.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk of complacency and all this. Really, that happened so fast that, you could just look the other way for a hot second. Yes. There's nobody there. There's no lines. There's no nothing. There's nobody giving problems. You could just, I remember doing this job and, counting ceiling tiles in Spanish if I could, because it's just so mundane. And guys been there since, forever, that whole day. So I'm happy it did work out. I'm not one of these guys, like I see there's a couple of former Secret Service guys that get on the TV and they go, oh, they should have swept the whole, it's 1,100 rooms, and I do have to make a correction. Last week, I did say this was an NSSE event. It wasn't. So I apologize. For some reason, I thought it was. There's maybe something else, what I was getting it mixed up with. It wasn't. Still in control of the Secret Service. But again, using can you use the military for something like this in a non-discretionary post?
Right.
You have the Posse Comitatus Act. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. Federal troops can't, become policing. But then you have the Insurrection Act where Trump kind of brought that out to use them in Chicago and stuff like that.
Right.
My thing is just change the law. Just go to Congress, say, hey, listen, if the Secret Service is shorthanded.
If it were that easy, then.
but that would go for a Democrat. That would go for a Republican. Like if the Secret Service is shorthanded, then use the military in non-discretionary posts. Maybe if you just had a Marine or an Army guy, just somebody there at that door,
Well, I mean, when you say any administration, but when we look back at the Obama administration and the Biden administration, our military was greatly reduced. They didn't want to let the National Guard do anything. Right. And then on top of that, look what we're dealing with now with the shutdown and DHS. So they are trying to also defund any type of, law enforcement. It's a difficult situation. What you're proposing makes sense. Right. But again, we're in this time where how common is common sense anymore.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I think it's a crazy situation that this was the third attempt on a president's life. We hear from the other side of the aisle that all about racism and all about how we're living with kings and no kings, et cetera. Yet here we are with, again, a third attempt on a quote unquote white, which I can't stand, just labeling anybody light skinned being of, just Caucasian background. That's it. We're all different, Italian, Irish, Polish, whatever it might be. Everyone has their own personal character as well as where it really lies. Right. And so nonetheless, this totally defeats anything they said. We'll get into Kimmel and the idiocy of what he said. We'll get into Comey and how they're inciting this upon the president. But overall, the fact that it's a third attempt says a lot. And Trump phrased it. He said, well, they always want to take out those that are making change. That will, hopefully bring a lot of good.
I don't understand. Like the things that we talk about really should not be political issues. Right. Support your military, support your police, support your borders. The whole King thing drives me nuts because, we always say politics aside, but, we were forced a COVID vaccination. That's right. We were forced Obamacare. That's right. So I don't get it. I just don't get it. But
sanctuary cities. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Right.
Even here in New York, you look at our governor, no term limits. No term limits here in New York. That's a king, right? That's a queen.
Right. I don't believe on that on either side. I think there are washed up Republicans. I think there's washed up, Democrats. I don't believe in that. There should be a certain level to, a couple terms and you're out. Yeah. So,
well, we'll see as this unfolds. He was arraigned with attempted assassination of the president and interstate transportation of firearms. And a discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. So we will watch the case as it unfolds and learn more about maybe how the Secret Service can improve, especially after Butler. We would have hoped that there would not have been this even attempt, but nonetheless.
The good thing is now that they took a long time with this to make sure that that agent or that officer was hit. Yeah. So they took their time making sure they did all their ballistics and everything else. So now they're going to add the charge of, I think it's going to be assault or attempted murder of a federal law enforcement officer, which is almost irrelevant. It should be put on there for the sake of it.
Exactly.
But all those other charges are going to give him life in jail anyway. Yeah. But I'm glad that they're tacking that on. Kudos to Jeanine Pirro because, she did it the right way. Let's not take any chances. Let's do it nice and slow and make sure we get everything right.
Yeah.
So very cool.
All right. What are we up to next? We can move on to Kimmel. We can move on to Comey. They're so connected to everything that's taking place right now.
I'll tell you what, Amanda, what's next? What's the next photo? We'll roll with it.
Former FBI Director James Comey has again been indicted by the Justice Department. The first indictment was dismissed. This time, prosecutors say it's because of a message he wrote in the sand.
James Comey allegedly threatened the life of the President of the United States. And as you all now know, shortly after posting that threat, he deleted that threat and then issued an apology.
Last year, Comey posted this photo to social media with the numbers 8647 written in seashells. 86 is slang for to get rid of something. 47, the number in the line of U.S. presidents currently being held by President Trump in his second term. Comey deleted the photo shortly after posting it. In a follow-up post, he said, "I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down." Still, a grand jury returned an indictment charging him with threatening the life of the President of the United States and transmitting that threat in interstate commerce. In a video response posted to Substack, Comey says he's prepared to fight these charges.
I'm still innocent, I'm still not afraid, and I still believe in the independent federal judiciary, so let's go. This is not who we are as a country. This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be.
For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Mara Montalbano.
All right.
I have to kick it right out the gate with the fact that Comey has the audacity to say this is not how the Justice Department is supposed to be. You're talking about a man who violated all types of privacy acts in obtaining or enforced his FBI to do things against a former president. And he is just the most obnoxious, narcissistic individual, I feel. He was a true threat to America's law enforcement and the views that people have about law enforcement come from mindsets like his. He knows what he wrote. How do we know what he wrote aside from the fact that it's well-known slang? He wrote a book
Right.
on these terms, Vinny.
Right.
This is, again, your background. Talk to us about what are the strong points of his indictment, because I know the defense is likely going to say, oh, it's his First Amendment right. But there is a difference when you are a public figure. Is that not accurate?
Well, there is. And I'll always say, freedom of speech goes out the window when you incite violence.
Right.
And the people out there with social media and the brainwashing, they could take 86 as we all know what 80 is.
Yes.
We've all said it 100 times.
Yeah.
But the problem I have with Comey is that he went on an anti-president warfare. We're going on Stephen Colbert, going on this one, going on all these shows and saying how unethical, the president was. And, you just don't do that. Like there's a stunning clip. I mean, it's priceless, of Johnny Carson just saying you don't mix politics like that.
Yes.
Like you don't use a political view. Like you can make fun of them, but you don't, you can't do what he's doing. And I think because of that, you have guys like Jimmy Kimmel, you have Stephen Colbert, you have all those guys. Hey, the director of the FBI is coming in and saying all this nonsense, and that's not. That, even as a retired or a former, head of the most powerful agency pretty much in the world, you can't be doing that. There's still a level of professionalism.
And he knows that.
And he knows that. I mean, you got to be on, like I just said a few minutes ago, somebody gets a 98 on why didn't you get 100? When you're a federal agent, you have to be 100% all the times, retired. Like, you are the face of, the law enforcement. That he's the top cop of the country.
Right.
And it bothers me when these guys go on, they start MFing everybody when they got fired. If he didn't get fired, things would be great.
Right.
It's just.
And he's always been dipping his 2 cents in through the whole time, right? Where you're supposed to remain impartial. I believe he also had a picture of himself holding a mug or wearing a Hillary shirt or something to that extent. He's always inserting himself into that political realm.
Right.
And his hatred for Trump just shows so much. Instead of being more of an advisor from a field of, past experience to speak to what would help, instead he incites.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the seashells were the worst of the worst, especially when you've already had like 2 assassination attempts. It's just the time.
Not cool.
No, not at all.
Not
and
cool.
I think the fact that he wrote a book and it's going to outline his knowledge about those types of things is going to work against him in his trial. He's being charged with 2 counts, right? Of, I guess, carrying up to 10 years each in prison. But the fact that he still says, I'm still innocent, I'm still not afraid. Like, what? His wording is just so Why do you feel so secure that the first time he got off on his was because the judge said he had
an attorney was not
properly appointed, right?
Yeah, something like that. And I'm surprised they didn't just I'm surprised they didn't just go at it a second time with that, which is kind of weird, because I have a problem with that last, accusation, with all that stuff going on, with the dossier and all that. That was, in the Pfizer warrant. I mean, that's for real, as you will, conspiracy.
Right.
That stuff was real. And you got to remember, I believe that his brother is an attorney for the Clinton Foundation, or there's some relative that works for the Clinton Foundation.
They're all interconnected. And, that's highly problematic, because you do want these people in these very powerful positions to somewhat be able to not be compromised. Right. And I don't know. I wouldn't say he's necessarily compromised, as he is the one who compromises others at this point. That's really what is beginning to unfold, that he had a level of power that he abused.
Right.
And so now he says, and I'm still not afraid. That is concerning, that you truly feel that you're not going to have to be responsible for your actions, because he's untouchable. Yeah. Oh, this is interesting.
I don't get it. Listen, I worked for the government for 21 years. Right. Secret Service, HSI. I've had plenty of crappy bosses that I could blast right now, and people would be like, "Oh my God." I would never do it. No. I would just never do it. Never to sell a book, never to promote this show. I mean, for God's sakes.
Here's the interesting part. I'm wondering if this, in relation to what he was charged with before that they did not bring up again, I'm wondering if this is going to open up more in discovery during the trial, if it's going to be able to give them access to other information that they couldn't previously get. And maybe that's why they didn't revisit.
It's funny you say that. As I was speeding over here, because as I was speeding over here, I had the news on, and they said there's other information that's going to come out to support this. There may be something else coming out.
Oh, stay tuned, whistlers. Stay tuned. I think more is definitely going to unfold with Comey. Let's get into Kimmel.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. First of all, calling Melania an expectant widow.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Like 2 days before his third assassination
attempt. It's not funny. It's
just
not funny.
No, but he's poking the bear because he's poked the bear before.
Right.
And had no repercussions. What did his show stop for 10 days?
A few days, and he was crying.
Yeah. And it was just ludicrous. So, and it almost riled up his small, insignificant base. But nonetheless, I think Melania coming out and making a statement on it is huge. She's a very reserved woman for the most part. And his quip about protected speech. Disney has already made a bad showing of themselves, especially over the past 5 years with the change of their leadership. Now then it changed back to old leadership, having issues with various problems on Disney Channel shows too, the content that they're putting forth to the public. All of these things are now kind of converging, and Kimmel seems to be just in that crux of it all, the person who is the face of everything that's wrong with the media that people have relied on.
He said on TV, he was like, I don't have to be funny. It's like, no, you're supposed to be funny. This is what you're alienating 50% of America, for God's sakes.
No.
Everybody watched Johnny Carson. Right. Everybody watched, David Letterman. Even Conan. Yeah. Conan stays away from that hurtful sting.
Exactly.
And
props to Bill Maher. Come on, you want to talk about staying? This guy he gives it, and then when he says, when credit is due, and he has bounced back on issues with Trump back and forth, and that's what you need, that back and forth where you say, okay, this thing I approve of, and let's give him his fair share. This, no, not okay. Let's dive deeper on that one and criticize what's not okay about it. And I'm not always a fan of Bill Maher, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to be a fan of anyone in particular, that is not going to be both sides. On that, I'm going to give him credit.
And let's be honest. Can I work for a company and say whatever I want to say and still have a job?
No.
Just think about how people have to walk on eggshells. It's just insane. How do they? I don't understand. There's a couple. Rob Schneider's demanding, that he be fired, that ABC fires him.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then you had Rogan saying that it can be interpreted in different ways, and then Megyn Kelly, which I'm kind of surprised, she's kind of done a 180 on this. Now she's kind of like backtracking and saying, well, it could be, maybe he didn't mean anything by it. I mean, the intent is there. Is it coincidental that it happened in the same week?
Right.
Yeah, it's coincidental. Doesn't make it right. But compare this to Roseanne Barr, right? Because that was a tweet about Barack Obama's advisor.
Right.
It wasn't even on her show or anything. Or Gina Carano, for God's sakes.
Right. And it certainly didn't insinuate any attempt on the woman's life when Roseanne said it. Inappropriate to the woman's features, perhaps, but nothing regarding a death threat. Now, what we're seeing is compound voices saying, kill this man.
Right.
And that is really where it's like, whoa. Like they almost seem like they're desperate at this point for their own interests.
Yeah. And I think it was the Dallas Cowboys that owner was like, you will not kneel during all this nonsense. Remember, we were all kneeling with the Colin Kaepernick stuff.
Right.
He was like, you are on my time. I'm paying your salary.
Exactly.
And you know what? Good for him. I'm all about freedom of speech and that kind of stuff. I'm all about it.
Right. But let's separate those particular venues and entertainment things. And you don't need, somebody said it once, no movie star, whatever, should be commenting, no entertainer should be commenting on anything political. Like no one cares about your opinion. Cares. And it's true. Like, you're out there and you're a talk show host. We are as well, right? I mean, and we're not going to turn around and be like, oh, the expectant widow. What?
Right.
No,
never do it. Never do it. So I don't think we're going to see the end of this, quite honestly. I think this is going to keep going on and on with this nonsense. As long as ABC allows them to do it, I just don't know why they can't just bring him in and go, hey, listen, you're causing too much controversy. She's not getting any more ratings by this. It's not like this is a money thing.
Right.
Just have fun. Just have fun. I'm so tired of trying to watch, a talk show or somebody and then just ripping the president. Or wishing him harm. Right. For that, more importantly, wishing him harm. Right. A joke here and there, like it's fine. It's a harmless joke. Right. But it's too much for me. It's too much.
Yeah. And I think it is for a lot of us. We want to be able to obviously see the news and share the news, but at the same time, we don't need to be fed. Right. An idea or an ideology at the same time.
11 o'clock at night, you're getting fed all this nonsense, what Jimmy Kimmel believes. Who gives a damn that you hate him?
Exactly. And if you go back to Jimmy Kimmel's past,
oh my God.
Are you kidding me?
Where's the Me Too movement on that?
Well, Me Too.
Yeah.
He went blackface. I mean, this man, but it's just comedy back then, now he wants to switch it up and all of a sudden, no.
Yeah, but it wasn't blackface when we were like 10 years old, when we didn't have a costume. And we're like, oh my God, I'm covering my face. It was like, right before he became big as an adult, where you should have realized, this doesn't work anymore. Right. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure we'll be talking about him.
Stay tuned.
Yep, stay tuned
on another, All right. So Rudy, on this note, Rudy Giuliani, critical but stable, America's favorite mayor. This man has been through a lot in the past few years. Yep. Trump's personal lawyer defending him on the election fraud stuff. We're just going to give a teaser on that election fraud stuff. Vinny and I are going to get to that in a future episode as we get closer, especially to the midterms. But we send our prayers out for Rudy.
He was great. 9/11. How do you forget him? Trying to taking control down there.
He comforted us at one of the worst times for New Yorkers. He really, steered that ship and getting things back on track and managing all of the chaos so wonderfully. Yeah. So we send, definitely our thoughts as he's in the hospital, hopefully recovering soon. He wasn't feeling well on his own podcast recently, raspy voice, and we're not quite sure. There's no word about why he was hospitalized, but we certainly sent him over.
100%.
Get better.
Hope he does well. 81. Hope so.
Yeah.
So, all right. Iran. We're talking about another week of Iran.
Oh my gosh.
What is this costing us? Oh my God.
So did Hegseth say it was 25 billion? Did he put
He said it. He said it was 25 billion. Now people are saying it's double. People are saying it's triple. I don't know who to believe. I mean, we are dropping a lot of bombs, and we do have a lot. We do have a lot going on there. Financial experts are warning that the longer this takes, this is not good for us financially.
Right.
Let's hope this ends soon. I think the president underestimated the stubbornness of the Iranians.
Yeah.
Because any other country by now would have just waved their flag and been like, "Hey, we're out." So I think that's a problem.
Which also I think opens up a lens, right? So what allows a particular leadership to be so stubborn? Why are they feeling confident, much like Comey? He's still not afraid. And why? So they're supposedly losing upwards of millions of dollars in oil revenue each day that the Hormuz Strait is blockaded, right?
Well,
Is that correct?
That's correct. But another thing to add to that, they only have a day or two before they have to cap off.
Correct.
And if they cap off, they're screwed.
Yes.
So that's crazy.
Right. And so that is really what's putting things into perspective. Because your regime was pretty much eradicated, and then you came in with a secondary attempt to still place leadership there, which has not been successful thus far. And so it looks like you're a country with severe damage to all of your military powers and your regime, and yet you're still not looking to make any deals. So therefore, I am concerned about why they feel so confident. Is there anything else that they have up their sleeve?
I don't know. They're as of today, it could have changed. It's changing every second.
It is.
But as of today, Iran was reviewing the latest proposal. I don't think it had, if I remember correctly, it didn't have anything about the nuclear issue, so the uranium stuff. So maybe this is just a plan to say, hey, let's negotiate that on the side, but let's keep this oil moving and flowing. Man, I hope so. I don't want to pay $4 a gallon.
No. Even though under Biden with no war, we were paying upwards of $5.15 in June of 22. But aside from that, I think that the issue more so too is that all of the climate screamers, look how much oil really does still play a role, irregardless of all of the, shutting down the coal mines and putting up these windmills everywhere and transferring. So many homes have transferred to electric and, heat and so forth and so on. But we still really see the truth that it's all being powered by fuel at the end of the day. Anyway, I know a lot of people are feeling that pain as far as companies are concerned with their products getting delivered at a different rate. First of all, their prices have increased too. All products that are byproducts of the fuel industry. And so this is, concerning, and we definitely don't want to see any more, especially the mom and pop shops, getting hurt more than they need to be. However, will this pain, which is still short term because we're not even a year into this war yet, correct? Was it a few months? Would it be? Yeah. So not even a half a year at this point. So will this short term pain lead to long term good, a complete turnaround of threats to the world?
Well, you have this going on for 50 years, right? You have death to America for 50 years. When is somebody going to take it serious? They've sponsored how many attacks across the world? So, and with all this going on, the stock market is still at 49,000 or whatever it is. So I just, we worry about the prices. The stock market's doing good. It's, I view this as just a temporary hike. I hope people can realize what the plan is. Look, under the last administration, we were paying high gas prices for, almost the whole entire administration. So there's a reason behind this. So once that reason is done, that job is done, I think it's going to kick back down. I hope I'm right. I'm not an economist. What do I know? I'm just a guy paying at the pump like everybody else.
Everybody else. Exactly. Which would be good to get a voice on that topic, and and looking forward more to what do Americans put in? I know we were talking about the 401k plan, right? So where does that go? And if we move now to economy, if we move out of the Iran situation, we're still going to wait and see what happens with that.
Right.
I know Pakistan played a role. I understand that. I think he had also, they sent one of their senior advisors to have a discussion with Putin, right?
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah, because I think he's doing some side deals.
Yeah.
I think he's involved somehow behind the
Well,
door.
I mean, everything with the Ukraine, he's got his own oil issues going on there too, right? So I think it all, comes together now that Venezuela has been kind of brought down as also.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know. Someone did mention that if Trump kind of gains better control of these oil, and puts an upper hand on it, that maybe we'll be in a better position.
Yeah.
But if we're going to be in a better position, 401.
You know what? 100%. And just remember one thing, like this is a hated war too on half this country, because it's just something else that they can attack this president on, whether you agree with it or not. It's hated.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Well, listen, we'll be talking about this next week because
we will.
17 things are going to change.
Right.
If we
Absolutely.
had 30 minutes just to view, like just change stuff around, as we're filming it, doing this would be great.
Yeah. And I'd like to bring someone else in to even speak on it further. So I don't know, maybe we'll pull a nice guest for you next week to see who, they can give their input, someone with a little more expertise in that.
All this going on, Trump puts out a 401.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about it for a minute.
Talk about it. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
So he's offering $1,000 to lower income retirement savers. This is fabulous because let me tell you what, they do this in Australia, and it has really done great for the Australians. We are constantly being told Social Security is running out, which is ludicrous. When you think about America managing those Social Security accounts, why did they fail to manage Social Security? Right. We are like the great investors. Yep. We have the stock market, and we have every state has their comptrollers, but we can't seem to manage Social Security for American people.
George Bush was onto something, I think, way back when he wanted to privatize it. I think he was onto something. A lot of people don't agree with a lot of things he did, but I think that was something. You can't figure out all the money you've put in over the last 40 years and you get that little amount back. Right. It's just insane.
No, it is.
But this program, I'm going to read this. Under the Federal Savers Match Program, the federal government will contribute up to $1,000 per year to eligible lower and middle income workers who contribute to qualifying retirement accounts. Single filers earn less than $20,500 up to $35,500 for a reduced rate, and married couples with a higher threshold. This allows hardworking Americans to deserve retirement security and portable savings that offer access to low-cost investments similar to those offered by federal workers. This actually helps out the lower states, like the lower income states like Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Oklahoma, where the average is 50,000. Right. So that means a lot. If the average, that means a lot of people making less than that.
Exactly.
So I think that helps. I know it would help out the younger people too, when they're just starting out in life. Hey, if he's going to match 1,000, a kid getting out of school is making $20 an hour, or whatever the heck may be.
Absolutely.
Minimum wage. Just throw it in. Right. I can give that to my son or my daughter and say, listen, here's your Trump account money, throw it in, and then they're going to match it for him.
Right.
What's 2,000 over 4? Over 5
and there's
years
no minimum, no maximum, right?
Yeah.
They're saying as well.
I think it's up to. You can do up to 1,000.
Oh, okay. So there is a max, but and cannot impose a minimum contribution or balance requirements is what I'm understanding also. Right. Okay, that's good.
So, but this is all new, so I'm sure that's going to get the kinks adjusted and whatnot. But good for the Trump administration for starting this. I think this is long overdue. Everybody complains about their 401, and you read all these people. Hey, I have this amount of money in my 401. Can I retire? And then you watch all these people, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. It's a couple more dollars in there. I mean, God forbid. I mean,
absolutely.
It's great.
Because you know what? I think that over the long term, people don't realize you want to retire, right? First, I remember back in the tier 1 days of, union employment, or where you worked and you had a union tier 1, you would get like 20 years and then you could retire and had a great pension. And even if you passed, your spouse could still obtain the pension. Over the years, especially in the field of education, now we're at tier 6 and they're getting nothing at this point. And your spouse won't be able to even receive those payments
Right.
anymore. And it's just shameful.
Right.
So you're looking now at 35 years before you can retire. So the quality of life is diminishing for most Americans when you look at that long-term financial situation. On top of that, many people aren't ready. I've seen these 55 and over communities, and they are skimming. They're living on such a budget that it's sad because they're, skimming through coupons and where can they eat out or how can they save money, especially when groceries are so
20-year-old
expensive.
cars, all
Gas
that
is
kind of
up,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
So I think that this is something that's been desperately needed for a long time.
Yeah.
And it will give people some type of more relief, cushion as time goes on. You can't predict what the status of anything is going to be 35 years down the road.
And what's the average age of somebody, right? So you get out of college at 20, 21, 22. Suppose you're lucky enough to get a teaching job at 22, which is almost impossible right off the bat. You got 35 years before you can really have a full pension. You're at 67 already.
Exactly.
What's the average age? That 72, 73. What are we at? A few years left to enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
Not good. All right. I like the sound of this, and hopefully it comes to, grows better and better. The thing is, of course, it's good and bad that we have a president term limits on presidents, but you hope that their ideas carry through with administrations. So let's hope.
What's next? What do we got next? The shutdown?
We can do the shutdown.
Let's do the shutdown next. If I'm out of order, Amanda, I'm sorry. It's a very hectic morning.
Record-shattering DHS shutdown finally ends.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep.
Airports were impacted. Yes, airports were as well. The TSA was impacted on that.
1,100 federal TSA workers quit.
My God.
1,100.
Oh, my God.
It takes 4 to 6 months to onboard somebody. And then you get that person with 4 to 6 months and he's a new jack. He's brand new. Right. So it is, thank God this is over. The good thing was 21 Democrats joined the Republicans in supporting this. So it ended up working.
Good for them.
Yeah. I mean, this is the record long shutdown.
Yeah. First of all, we see this, they're constantly going over the budget. And when they do, we all have to suffer because they use it. Right? The Democrats, if the Republicans are in power. And I feel this I would have to say, I'm a little angry about I feel like the Republicans don't do it as good or as often as the Democrats do. The budget comes up and the Democrats use it like a noose, which is really hard on the, American people. But then they feed it to the American people as if we need to do this to, make sure that certain benefits aren't taken away from us when it's never the shutdown. That's never the situation to begin with. No. But it hit in 2026 and it was a 4-day partial shutdown in late January, then a second DHS only shutdown that started on February 14th. And that was triggered by the two, the killings in Minnesota, of course. So this one has been the longest agency shutdown in U.S. history, surpassing 75 days, ending on April 30th, right? So,
and they're calling for several kinds of reforms with ICE. ICE was already funded by the Big Beautiful Bill, right? But they're including body cameras, which were already put in. Yeah. They're forbidding officers from hiding their faces, which, as a former, I don't agree with. I mean, if you're going to dox me, if you're going to threaten me, if you're going to threaten my kids, you're not going to know who I am. I don't care. You see federal agent, I'm involved in an active case right now. We'll talk about that happened here. And the person who we arrested was claiming that she didn't know who we were. Meanwhile, we have, FBI, HSI, we have everything all over, but because she didn't see my face, she couldn't determine who I was. That's nonsense. But the biggest problem that I have with this is that they want judicial warrants for these ICE arrests, and it's never going to happen. There's so many people that have these ICE detainers, and they're supposed to be deported. You can't go before a criminal judge to say there's a million people that need to go. You don't have the proper personnel to have those judges sign off on these judicial warrants. It can't be. Yeah. There's two different types of warrants. The administrative warrants. The administrative warrants is what you're seeing take place. Mm-hmm. That went before an administrative judge. It went before a supervisor that said, listen, this guy's creating crimes. He's not a good person. Lack of candor. We need to get him out of here. That's different than the judicial judges that are signing the criminal warrants, burglaries,
Right.
You get arrested for burglary, okay, then that's a criminal charge. ICE will then look at you and say, hey, listen, we're going to deport you based on this administrative warrant that we're issuing for you with your bad behavior. Part of the deal is you have to be a good person to stay in this country, and which is kind of reasonable, right? So they're demanding that. That's such a stretch, and I don't understand. I really think sometimes it's politics just to educate the dumb. A lot of people don't even know the difference between the judicial warrants, and some people don't even know what HSI or ICE even stands for. So it's just, well, let's hope they work this out. I really, I think Mondami said something like these ICE raids are doing no justice. So yeah, yes, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they are doing, they're getting people off, out of this country that shouldn't be here. Well, they're not, they're not criminals. But if you come into this country, in step one, you're not doing the right thing. You're violating the law at step one by not doing your paperwork. I just, why do you want this person in here? Did they get a pass?
No. And you could see that it's selective to a large extent. And I think it has a lot to do with the voting.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're beginning to see more and more unfold. And that's another episode. Again, as we get closer to the midterms, these are the things that we need to put a lens on and think about. What was the immigration issue really a voting issue? Yeah. And I think that came in large part. But then the disruption with the cartels that come in with it and the crime that ensued, I mean, especially to women in the communities. And there, and these are also immigrant women that are, suffering as a result, is another facet of a very, very poorly run and purposeful border surge, or lack of border control surge. Yeah. So this Congress passed in the budget resolution to eventually provide $70 billion for immigration enforcement. Yeah. So you're crying about $25 billion with a war that may protect major parts of the world, and we also have to give $70 billion to protect our own country. Just look at balance those numbers out for a second. But Trump wants it signed by June 1st, and I think it's absolutely necessary. I'm sure we all do. There's been obviously a focus on the immigration issues in Europe that have become so far. When the Prince Charles was here speaking to that, he said very openly, we have been, two countries together for supporting each other since the beginning of America. And he, I think, was almost sending out a signal about the issues taking place in his own country and in Europe as well.
It's a problem.
With borders,
It's a problem. People people sneak in to do bad things.
Yep.
Nobody sneaks in to make a better life.
If you're not coming in legally.
Not coming in legally, it's a problem. I don't understand sometimes the things that we talk about, assassination attempts and the border. I don't know why that they're political issues. Right. You just listen, if you support your military, you support your border. Look, I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I wished him well. I
think a large part of it, again, is what we're being fed versus what is true. And so if there is one or two people that are in charge of a lot of the media, they're going to make sure that some type of narrative related to their larger interests are being fed to us. And so I think that, like we found with the Southern Poverty Law Center now being brought up on those charges, here is a major law organization that claims to be fighting hate crimes when they were actually provoking and creating them. I mean, this is crazy. I'm very interested to see how that case is going to break down. So we have these entities working to feed the public false information, and they seem like such reputable, you're talking about news networks, law centers, when really it's false. And so I think the whole border and immigration issue has been like a psyop? Conspiracy?
This is the second law I'm going to put on the books for today. We had a first law, talking about the Secret Service and using the military. How about Congress does not get paid during a shutdown? How about that? How is that not in the law? I don't understand. No. That is, That is like this.
I
Like,
know.
what in the world? But
No.
doesn't that take everybody off?
Right.
Never mind that. I mean, listen.
I don't know any field where you're getting paid and you're
Right.
not working. It doesn't
Right.
make any
Some
sense.
presidents are stingy too with the raises for government workers. I mean, Trump really wasn't the best. Obama wasn't the best with the raises. I mean, the Bush era, he was very generous with the raises. But for the love of God, Congress gets their 3% every year. They get everything handed to them. And over half of them are millionaires.
I know. And I think when it originally started, it was all supposed to be volunteer, right? Back in the day when America, 250 years ago. But talk about that and talk about Mamdani, all of the things he's been putting in place to stop permits from celebrating the 250th anniversary. We're going to have to touch that as we get closer.
And then over the weekend at Brooklyn, did you see the big ICE arrest that took place?
Oh, Phillison.
Yeah. So ICE went to go grab someone who committed crimes. Yeah. He was a violent felon. They grabbed him in Brooklyn. He put up a fight. He claimed he was injured, so they did the right thing. They brought him to the hospital. He caused a big problem in the hospital, throwing himself down, making a big scene. At that point, they were in the hospital for a couple hours. The hospital cleared them. They had a couple hundred people waiting outside. They rallied up, and there was like 8 or 9 arrests. Cops had to get called. If you watch TV, they're throwing people around. It's just it sucks.
Right.
There's no way around it. It's just they can't do their job. And this is not this is a person who committed crimes in this country that wasn't supposed to be here in the beginning.
Right.
And again, I can't believe that this is a political issue.
Right.
It's just,
and that's what provokes that thinking that how much of this is organized, that it's not really organic, but that it's organized. Yeah. And a lot of people wanted to say, oh, that's conspiracy theory. It comes to fruition. I think the phrase or whatever the meme is, what's the difference between conspiracy and truth? 6 months. So this is what we're seeing come down, especially with the indictments against SPLC.
And now they also, they're putting in some strict sanctuary rules now for New York, Hokulus. So I just read that coming over.
Wow. Isn't Long Island the number one asylum where the most asylum seekers are?
Law number 3 for today. I think we should be our own state, Long Island. We're bigger than we're bigger than a few states.
I tell you, upstate New York has been harping on that for quite some time because you know what it is. You're talking whatever it is, 62 counties, and many of them, as far as the rural being separated from the suburban, being separated from the boroughs. Right. And I think it really is a point in many parts of the nation where they have that same dynamic in the structure of the state. Right. And so for that reason, because the greater population is within the city, it's so dominant across the entire state. And therefore, many portions of the state do not rank.
Yeah. Big cities always win.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it every year.
Yeah.
It's true. It's absurd. All right. Last one. I'm going to let you run with this before I put my 2 cents in on it. Amanda, could you put up this whole teacher thing with these teachers? There you go. Sicko ex-teacher proposed way to hide to affair with teen student after 3-hour sex marathon. Hold on a second. Okay. 3 hours? That's like watching Schindler's List. That's 6 hours of Seinfeld. That's an extra inning baseball game. I mean, for the love of God, if this kid was 18 or 19, he'd be getting fist bumps the rest of his life, but he's 17. It's just not right. No. Talk to me, teacher.
All right. So, laughing, honestly, truly in my heart, I am angered. I'm not going to,
how could you not?
Hold that back. So, yes. So the issue is, oftentimes when it is a female teacher with a male student, this is what you're getting. You're getting this almost like the male is elevated.
It's nonsense.
Okay. And it's if he gets hyped up, it's like a coming of age type of thing to some sick extent. When it's the opposite and you have the male with the female, you get a much different.
Yeah. It's a rape.
Right. Either way, this is exactly what that is. This is grooming. This is abuse. I want to say, even if the student was over 18, I'm sorry. You are the teacher.
Right.
You should not be having any affair with the student. I mean, when you want to talk about who's in charge of France right now. Okay. Like Macron, his wife was his teacher at one time. Their age difference is very, very far apart. It's something like 20 years apart, nearly. Yeah. It's gross. I think he was in her children's class, actually. So just put that into perspective for a second. This isn't romantic. This isn't anything. This is abuse on a psychological level. Yeah. And so what we know is that there are nearly 350 public educators arrested for child sex crimes in 2023 alone.
How many?
350 that they know of. All right. Yeah. A lot here.
That's one a day.
It's crazy. That's exactly what it is.
It's one a day.
Right. And basically they're saying it's severely underreported.
Yeah.
That's what law enforcement is gathering, that this is severely underreported. Yeah. And I think a lot of it might be because of this issue where if it's a boy, he's almost fist pumping about it, but she's a psycho, just like a male would be. Right. And this is grooming and this is gross. In 2026, the cases span multiple states, from Washington through New York through Florida. 2004 Department of Education study found that an estimated 1 in 10 K through 12 students will experience sexual misconduct from a school employee. And what we see instead is that they're trying to incorporate all of these mental health clinics within the schools. Come on, you're basically almost encouraging that, don't worry, if it happens, we'll just put you on some antidepressants or whatever. It's the whole thing is a very, very sick cycle. So why it's happening, I don't know. I just think it's a further sign of the degradation of the public school system.
And you have to add in like the brainwashing online. You have to add in what people find acceptable online. Like they see something happening and then you look at other countries or other cultures and they go, oh, that's not so bad. Iranians can marry their daughter at 9 years old. Right. So what, I'm wired a little differently. No, but that doesn't work here. Right. It's just, it's bananas. I know I joked about the 3 hours and stuff like that, but in reality, that's insane.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
And her husband is representing her.
What?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
How bananas is that?
No.
Yes.
Okay. That's even more sick and depraved. Was he recording it? This just goes to show again that.
Yeah. Was it cool? Was it a thing? Like, it just, people are wired different and,
I don't know. Is that wired different or depraved personalities where the increase in porn? We could go on and on about how, people are being led astray morally. I mean, Sodom and Gomorrah bringing up this just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I don't want to, we'll look into that more and find out what happens. But I think it's high time that these people receive very stringent. I mean, they were talking about, castrating the men and other things to really start to send a message that any form of child abuse is just not going to be accepted anymore. Right. I know that Newsday just had a whole report too about the child services and how they are failing children tremendously. I'd like to come back to that on another episode. Yeah. But it needs to end, the abuse of children. Yeah. No.
And I'm like, from a law enforcement standpoint, like, look, if someone gets labeled a child predator or however they label these people, I always say, hey, hold on a second. Let's think about what took place. What's the story? Was the guy 18 and the daughter was 17, and the girlfriend was 17 and the parents got pissed off. So they went and filed charges. There are some instances.
Correct.
So you have to sit back and go, okay. Right. But something like this.
Case by case basis.
Something like this that is just so blatant and absurd, and it's bananas. I use that term a lot. I use bananas like once or twice a week. I don't know.
It just goes to show, I mean, they're just getting more and more out of hand. But I think that the fact that it's coming now out into the public and that we are learning more and more and seeing that the whole situation, honestly, stemming back from COVID,
Right.
where our eyes were opened, not only to what was taking place in the curriculum, but we also discussed that Leonard Susskind individual, that parent pushing the materials into the schools regarding trans or LGBT being represented in literature, yet the literature that was used for it was perverse and pornographic. And then he was caught, which I want to make a correction on. I thought he was arrested right there at the station. Correction on that one. He was reported by a courageous commuter, and then he was followed. They were able to, I guess, get some type of warrant to track him and trace him. And then the law enforcement developed an even larger case against his use of child porn. And then he was arrested afterwards at that point. So kudos to the police department for their, work on that. But that is all just a big picture of what the changes that need to come for education in America.
All right. So Vinny put 3 laws on the books today, gave kudos to the Secret Service. Teachers with their students, no bueno, not good.
Bueno.
Got a couple seconds left. Lisa, send us out.
All right, listen, we love having all of our whistlers tune in as we grow this podcast with you. So please reach out, subscribe to Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, YouTube. Catch us where you can and when you can. And as our show grows, we love your input. We're going to come up to that soon and start getting your voice heard. So have a great week. Take time to count your blessings, and we will see you next week.
See you Monday.